stainless steel, cold enough to burn bare skin. Sarah Vance sat on the bench in the holding cell. Her hands rested loosely on the silk of her red cocktail dress. She didn't shiver. She didn't blink. She just watched the booking sergeant, a man named Davis, laughing at something on his iPhone. The air in the 12th precinct tasted like ammonia, stale coffee, and that specific metallic tang of human misery. Davis leaned against the heavy steel door, twirling a set of keys. He looked at Sarah and saw Jane Doe, a disorderly conduct case in heels, a Friday night problem. He didn't know he was looking at the captain of the 12th precinct. He didn't know the woman sitting 3 feet away had dismantled the Al-Bi Neon mob in Hell's Kitchen and fired 3 lieutenants for corruption last quarter. She wasn't trapped in the cage with him. He was trapped in the cage with her. But to understand exactly how a decorated police captain ended up behind bars in her own city, we have to rewind the clock. 2 hours earlier, the heat in the back of the taxi was physical, a wet, suffocating blanket. New York in July wasn't a city. It was a convection oven. Sarah pressed her phone against her ear, leaving a smudge of makeup on the screen. "I'm 10 minutes out. Start the rehearsal without me." She hung up before her brother could argue. She checked her reflection in the rearview. No badge, no gun, no radio, just Sarah. Vulnerable, exposed. "I got a detour, lady," the driver grunted. Mike, 50-something, eyes that looked like they hadn't closed in a decade. "The bridge is choked." Sarah didn't look up from her phone. "GPS says the bridge is clear, Mike." "Stay the course." "It ain't traffic," Mike said. His voice was tight, strained. "It's the toll trolls, the blues." Sarah's eyes snapped to the rearview mirror. "Excuse me." "Sergeant Davis," Mike whispered. The name tasted like ash in his mouth. "He's fishing tonight. Sets up a checkpoint. Finds a cracked light that ain't cracked. Demands a cash bond or he impounds the medallion. I can't lose the car, lady. I just can't." Sarah felt the shift from sister of the groom to hunter. "Stay on the main road," she commanded. The temperature in the cab dropped 10 degrees. "Drive the speed limit. If he stops us, you don't say a word. I'll handle it. You don't understand. Drive." They made it 4 blocks. The lights hit them first. Blinding strobes of red and blue bouncing off the dirty plexiglass. Mike let out a sound that was half sob, half sigh, and pulled over. Sergeant Tom Davis didn't walk to the car. He sauntered. He was a slab of meat with a badge, wearing sunglasses at dusk, chewing gum with the slow, rhythmic arrogance of a cow chewing cud. He tapped on the glass with his wedding ring. Tick, tick, tick. Mike rolled it down. "Officer, license," Davis said. He didn't look at the papers. He looked at Mike. "You know you were doing 40 in a 25? I was doing 20, sir. I have a dash cam." Davis smiled. A reptile smile. Cold. Dead. "Dash cam looks obstructed to me. That's a ticket. Step out. Please," Mike's voice cracked. "I don't have any cash today. It's been slow." "Did I ask for cash?" Davis mocked, feigning shock. He yanked the door open and ripped Mike out of the seat. He didn't just pull him. He slammed him into the quarter panel. The metal screamed. Sarah saw the grip. Davis had his thumb dug into the pressure point behind Mike's ear. Pain compliance for sport. Sarah opened her door. The sound of her heels on the asphalt was like a gunshot. "Let him go," Sarah said. Davis turned. He looked her up and down, lingering on the dress, the legs, the expensive purse. He saw a trophy. "Get back in the car, sweetheart," Davis drawled. "Unless you want to ride too." Sarah walked around the taxi. She didn't scream. She didn't wave her arms. While she stood in the bladed stance, feet apart, ready to strike, ready to move. "You have no probable cause," she said. Her voice was flat, deadly. "No radar gun, no pacing vehicle, and you just assaulted a compliant citizen. That's a Title 18 violation. Let him go." Davis froze. The gum stopped moving. He stepped into her space, smelling of peppermint and ego. "You a lawyer?" He laughed. A wet, ugly sound. "You think you know the rules? I am the rules." He reached for his cuffs. "You're under arrest. Obstruction. Resisting. Being a bitch on a Friday." He grabbed her wrist. Sarah's muscle memory screamed at her. Drive her palm into his nose. Sweep his leg. End him. Right there on the asphalt. But she didn't. She needed to see the bottom of the hole. She let him snap the steel cuffs onto her wrists. She let him shove her head down into the back seat of the cruiser, right next to a weeping Mike. "You're making a mistake," Sarah whispered. "The only mistake," Davis said, slamming the door, "was you thinking you mattered." The Sally Port door rattled shut, sealing them inside the belly of the 12th precinct. Davis dragged them to the booking desk, parading them like fresh kills. "Miller!" Davis shouted. Officer Miller looked up from his computer. A 20-year-old rookie, acne scars, and a good heart. "What we got, Sarge?" "Trash," Davis said. Shoving Sarah toward the bench. "Process the driver. Throw the princess in the tank. She needs to cool off." Miller stood up, grabbing his clipboard. He looked at Mike. Then he looked at the woman in the red dress. He saw the face. He saw the eyes. Miller's blood ran cold. The clipboard slipped from his fingers and clattered onto the linoleum. Oh my God, Miller choked out. He looked from Sarah to Davis, his eyes bulging. Sarge, do you know who?" Sarah locked eyes with Miller. She didn't speak. She slowly raised her index finger to her lips. Shh, Miller froze, his mouth hanging open. Davis didn't notice. He was too busy taking a wad of cash out of Mike's wallet and slipping it into his own pocket, right there, in the open. Sarah watched the money disappear into Davis's uniform. "Actually, Sergeant," she said, her voice cut through the silence like a razor blade. "Don't bother with the rights." She stood up. The handcuffs slid down her wrists as she stepped into the light. "I want you to count that money. I want the jury to know exactly how much your pension was worth." It was a direct order. Miller swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bobbed, nervous. He looked at Sergeant Davis, then back at Sarah, and slowly, shakily, he picked up his clipboard. He went back to typing, his fingers trembling over the keys. He chose silence. He chose survival. But Sergeant Davis didn't notice the shift in the room's temperature. He was too comfortable, on his throne. He kicked his feet up on the desk, heavy black boots scuffing the wood. Then he answered his vibrating cell phone. He didn't bother to lower his voice. Why would he? In his mind, the precinct was his kingdom, and the people on the bench were just cattle. "Yeah," Davis said into the phone, picking a piece of lint off his uniform. "It's handled. Don't worry about the breathalyzer results. They got misplaced. Just have the envelope ready at the usual spot. And tell your nephew to drive slower next time."
"Where's my money, cabbie?"
He hung up with a smirk. On the bench, Sarah cataloged the conversation. Tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, conspiracy.
I only have a little.
She wasn't just a prisoner anymore. She was a recording device. Every word Davis spoke added another year to his sentence. Beside her, Mike, the taxi driver, was vibrating with anxiety. He was wringing his hands so hard, his knuckles were turning purple. "I'm dead," Mike whispered, staring at the floor. "He's gonna take the taxi. My wife is gonna kill me. I should just beg him." Sarah leaned in close. The scent of her expensive perfume clashed with the precinct's stale air. "Mike, look at me. Do not beg. Do not admit to anything." "You don't get it, lady," Mike hissed back. Tears welled in his eyes. "This guy owns the block. There's nobody to call." "I'm the one you call," Sarah said. She shifted slightly, angling her body so Davis couldn't see her face. Then she fixed Mike with a stare that could cut glass. "I need you to listen very carefully. I am not a civilian. I am Captain Sarah Vance, NYPD. I run the 12th precinct." Mike blinked. His brain tried to process it. He looked at her dress, her heels, then her eyes. The steel in her gaze was undeniable. "You?" Mike whispered. "You're a cop? Then why? Why are you sitting here?" "Because if I stopped him there," Sarah said, "he gets a slap on the wrist." Her eyes stayed locked on Davis across the room. "I'm letting him dig the hole. I'm waiting until he's so deep, he can never climb out. I need you to be strong, Mike. I need a witness who saw the money change hands." "Witness?" Mike looked terrified. "Lady, I just want to go home." Before Sarah could answer, the heavy door to the sergeant's office swung open. Davis leaned out, a predatory grin on his face. "Cabbie, front and center. Let's discuss your financial future." Mike looked at Sarah one last time. She gave him a subtle nod. "Trust me." Mike stood up on shaky legs and walked into the office. The door slammed shut, but the blinds were open. Sarah watched through the glass. She saw Davis talking, gesturing with open palms, the fake good guy routine. She saw Mike shaking his head, pleading. Then she saw Davis slam his hand on the desk. The mask dropped. Inside the office, the air was thick with intimidation. 300, Davis said. "Cash. Right now, or I impound the taxi. Suspend your license." and call CPS to do a welfare check on those kids you mentioned. Mike broke. It was painful to watch. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled wad of bills. I only have 200, Mike sobbed. It's everything I made today. Please. Davis snatched the money. He counted it slowly, licking his thumb. 200. I guess I'm feeling generous tonight. He stuffed the cash into his pocket. Get out of here. And if I see you on this street again, the price doubles. Mike stumbled out of the office, looking 10 years older than he had 10 minutes ago. He didn't look at Sarah. He just kept his head down and hurried toward the exit. A man stripped of his dignity. Next, Davis shouted. Sarah stood up. She smoothed the silk of her dress. She didn't walk like a victim. She walked like she was approaching a podium. She entered the office and sat down without being asked. Name? Davis asked, grabbing a pen. Does it matter? Sarah replied. Cool. Even. Davis paused. He looked up, annoyed. It matters for the arrest record I'm about to type up. Unless, of course, you want to settle this the easy way. The easy way, Sarah repeated. You mean the felony way? Davis laughed. A dry, humorless sound. He leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest. You got a sharp tongue, sweetheart. But here's the reality check. You're in my house. You have no phone, no lawyer, and no friends. You can walk out of here right now for $200, or you can spend the weekend in the tombs with the junkies and the rats. Your choice. Sarah leaned forward. She placed her hands on his desk, invading his territory. I'm not giving you a cent. I'm curious, Sergeant. Do you split the money with your partner, or do you steal from him, too? Davis's face went from smug to purple in a heartbeat. The vein in his forehead bulged. He stood up. His chair scraped violently against the floor. You think you're smart? You're nothing. You're just another number in the system. He grabbed his radio. Miller, get in here. Miller appeared in the doorway, looking like he was about to vomit. Take this, person, to holding cell 3, Davis spat. The one in the back, with no windows, and lose her paperwork for a few hours.
Chief.
I want her to disappear for a while. Miller hesitated. He looked at his captain.
Take him into custody.
Do it, Davis screamed. Sarah stood up. She held out her wrists for the cuffs, her eyes never leaving Davis's face. You better make that phone call, Sergeant, she said. Tell your friends the fix is in. You're gonna need all the help you can get. Davis shoved her toward Miller. Get her out of my sight. They reached cell 3. It was isolated, damp, dark. Miller unlocked the door with a trembling hand. Sarah stepped inside. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked. A sound of finality. She turned to survey her cell. It was empty, save for a steel toilet. But then she noticed something scrawled on the wall. Fresh marker, right near the floor, a list of names, and next to the last name, today's date. Sarah's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a drunk tank. From down the hall, she heard Davis's voice booming. He wasn't talking to a suspect. He was on the phone. Again. Yeah, I got a problem, Davis said. His voice echoed off the concrete walls. A woman. She knows too much. No, I can't just release her. She's seen the book. A pause. Then a line that made Sarah Vance realize she might not be the hunter anymore. Fine, Davis said. Send the cleaners. We'll do it tonight.
This covers your loss.
Sarah sat in the dark, memorizing the names scrawled on the graffiti-covered wall next to her. These weren't just vandals, they were victims. People who had disappeared into Davis's system and never came out whole. 45 minutes later, the heavy steel door at the end of the hallway buzzed. A heavy, magnetic thunk. Footsteps echoed on the concrete. Not the shuffle of a prisoner, not the heavy stomp of a beat cop. These were expensive shoes, leather on linoleum. Sergeant Davis stood up from his desk, adjusting his belt, a smug grin plastered on his face. He thought his fixers had arrived. He thought the problem was about to go away. He was wrong. The man who walked through the security door wasn't a cleaner. It was James Wilson, the chief of department, the highest-ranking uniformed officer in the NYPD, a man who ate politicians for breakfast. Davis blinked, his brain misfiring. Chief? I wasn't expecting a visit from one police plaza. Wilson didn't smile. He didn't offer a hand. He looked around the precinct like he was inspecting a slaughterhouse. I received a distress signal, Sergeant. A trigger from a silent alarm reserved for high-value targets. It came from inside this building. Davis laughed nervously, sweat beading on his upper lip. Must be a glitch, Chief. The wiring in this dump is ancient. We're all quiet here. Just processing a few drunks. Wilson took a step closer. He smelled like expensive scotch and absolute authority. Is that so? Then why does the GPS of Captain Sarah Vance's phone ping to this exact location? The color drained from Davis's face so fast, he looked like a corpse standing upright. Captain. Vance? The captain of the 12th, Wilson barked. Where is she, Sergeant? Davis swallowed. His throat clicked. I have a Jane Doe in cell 3. Disorderly conduct. She had an attitude. Show me, Wilson said. It wasn't a request. The walk down the hallway felt like a funeral march. Davis fumbled with the keys, his hands shaking so violently, the metal chattered against the lock. He opened the heavy door to cell 3. Sarah Vance stepped out. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like a hurricane, waiting to make landfall. She smoothed the front of her red dress, locked eyes with Davis, then turned to the chief. Sarah, Wilson said, his voice softening just a fraction. Are you hurt? I'm fine, Chief, Sarah said, her voice ice cold. But we have a situation, a Title 18 violation, extortion, false imprisonment, and conspiracy to commit murder. She pointed a manicured finger at Davis. Search him. Now wait a minute, Davis stammered, backing away. She's lying. She's crazy. She attacked a cab driver. Search him, Sarah repeated. Two of Wilson's details stepped forward. They slammed Davis against the wall. They patted him down. From his front pocket, they pulled out a crumpled wad of cash. $200, Sarah said. Marked bills. I memorized the serial numbers on the ride over. Check the top bill. Ends in 45B. One of the officers checked. He looked at the chief and nodded. It's a match, sir. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush a man. Davis sagged against the wall, the air leaving his lungs. He looked at Miller, the rookie, begging for an ally. Miller looked at the floor, then stepped forward.
Give me what you
I saw it too, Chief. He took the money. He threatened the driver. He told me to bury the paperwork. It was over. The blue wall of silence didn't just crack, it shattered. You didn't just arrest a captain, Wilson said, his voice low and dangerous. You tried to shake down the one woman in this city who knows exactly how to bury you. Cuff him, Wilson ordered, and strip him. The officers didn't hesitate. They spun Davis around. The click, click, click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound in the precinct. Then one officer reached out and ripped the sergeant's chevrons off Davis's sleeve. The sound of tearing Velcro was visceral. Davis was dragged out of the precinct, screaming that he'd been set up. But nobody was listening. The next morning, the sun rose over a different precinct. Internal affairs swarmed the building. Files were seized. Hard drives were pulled. The list Sarah had found on the cell wall became the key piece of evidence in a federal indictment. An indictment that would take down 6 other officers and a corruption ring that had plagued Queens for a decade. Mike, the taxi driver, sat in the captain's office. Sarah personally handed him a document across the mahogany desk. Your record is clean, Mike, Sarah said. The ticket is void. The impound fees are waived. And the city is issuing a check for your lost wages. Mike looked at the check, then at Sarah. His voice broke. I thought nobody cared about a guy like me. That's why I wear the badge, Mike, Sarah said, offering him a small, genuine smile, to remind people that the law protects everyone, not just the powerful. As Mike walked out of the precinct, free and clear, another door was closing across town. At the central booking facility, former Sergeant Tom Davis sat on a metal bench, identical to the one he had forced Sarah onto. He was stripped of his uniform. He was stripped of his pension. All he had left was a gray jumpsuit and a view of iron bars. The lock clicked shut with a heavy, final thud. Davis closed his eyes. He finally understood what Sarah had meant. He wasn't the hunter anymore. He was the prey. Tom Davis thought he was above the law. He found out the hard way. Justice always collects its due. Folks, if watching a corrupt bully get exactly what he deserved brought a smile to your face, hit that like button right now. It helps us bring more of these stories to light. And if you believe truth should always win, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the next story, it's going to shake you to your core. See you in the next one.